It's the Church of Jesus Christ.
On Memorial Day, we pause to remember those members of our armed forces who have preserved our liberty and our freedom by making the supreme sacrifice.
Historically, America has been a beacon for freedom. In 1925, in his inaugural address, President Calvin Coolidge said, "America seeks no earthly empire built on blood and force. No ambition, no temptation lures her to thought of foreign dominions."
The older I've gotten, the more I realize how grateful I am to live in America. This is a unique nation. It was founded on a principle of self-government under God. Like no other nation before it, we reached a pinnacle of prosperity and freedom unknown to people for thousands of years. This is an amazing place, and the whole world looks to us for those ideals.
But today, there are many Americans who don't agree with our founding principles because they've never learned them.
And there's a massive battle of good versus evil, and they know that they're going to have to get on one side or the other.
This is what many campuses, not only in New York City, but across the United States look like.
In the spring of 2024, there have been protests in various colleges, especially Columbia in New York City, in favor of Hamas and against Israel, the only democracy in the Middle East.
The protests that we've been seeing in the spring of 2024 against Israel in favor of Hamas, basically happening on college campuses because young Americans have been taught basically from the time they entered elementary school that America is a bad place, that we're founded on everything wrong, that there's nothing good about America.
A recent poll found that only 18% of young Americans under 30 who call themselves liberal are happy to be an American.
How do we get to the point where, number one, our young people don't want to identify themselves as Americans because they don't understand what it means to be an American and the history thereof? And number two, why is it that they're taking to college and university campuses and to our streets in support of a terrorist organization and actually calling for genocide?
Critics note that too many of our institutions, including the military, have gone woke. They see America as fundamentally an evil place.
Every institution of society, without exception, has gone woke, has gone crazy. Corporate America, the military, the Boy Scouts. There's no institution that has not been affected by wokeness, which is really symbolic for just lying, right? Truth exposes wokeness.
A major contributing factor as to why so many young Americans hate America as founded is the educational system, which for decades has taught them that essentially America is bad now and was always bad.
So you have all these young people on these university campuses who really don't even know the history of America. They don't know anything about Valley Forge. They don't know the price that was paid. They know nothing about why the Star-Spangled Banner was written. They know none of that. All they know is America was a slave-loving country and the framers wanted to protect their own interests. I mean, that's what they've been taught. And there's no question that, like all peoples, Americans have flaws. We have dark spots in our history. Who would deny that? But I challenge anyone to study the history of any people, of any civilization, of any country, and find a people that have tried harder to value the individual, to ensure liberty, and to correct our wrongs.
A recent example of our educational system lying about our nation's history is called the 1619 Project, which is under the auspices of the New York Times. The 1619 Project postulates that we as a nation were not born on July 4, 1776, but rather in the year 1619, when the first African slaves were imported into Jamestown.
They're telling our children that America was founded as an evil nation, built on oppressing people of color, women, and children. It's a lie. And that's why it's dangerous. It's the type of things that the communists would love to teach American children. If we teach our children that America was founded as an evil nation, that it was founded on tyranny, on oppression, on slavery even, what child is going to serve this country? What child is going to join the military and defend this country against actually evil enemies like the Chinese, if it ever comes to it?
Anti-political history of America's 1619 project. In the New York Times, there were 20 black journalists who came together to author what they call the 1619 project, and they identified America's founding as in 1619 and not 1776, and that was the year that 20 black slaves came on the shores. And they said because of America's history with slavery, that everything that developed from that, capitalism, was therefore invalid. And so they have unfortunately had the support of major corporations, and they have taken this anti-American doctrine around to public school systems in all parts of the country. And so this is just one expression of this denigration of American values.
We need to teach our children the truth about America. We shouldn't hide anything from them. They should know that when America was founded that there was slavery. They should know that slavery was evil. And they should know that Americans died in a civil war over whether or not we were going to be a free nation or a nation of slavery.
What did America do to rid ourselves of slavery? Ultimately, we fought a war that cost over 700,000 casualties.
And those are the things that we need to teach our children, not this 1619 garbage, which is totally been debunked and fact-checked, and not just by people like me who are involved in politics. It's been fact-checked by scholars and academics of the highest degree.
The 1619 project, if you think about it, this is all about undermining the founding of our great nation. We're not teaching about July the 4th of 1776. We're not teaching about why we decided to separate ourselves from the British Empire and King George III and the things he did. We're not teaching about Lexington Green and Concord Bridge and all of those things that came about. We're not teaching about the Constitution of the United States of America. So I think there has to be a time when all of us reject this continual use of a victim mentality to try to, stain the great reputation and the history of the United States of America.
What is remarkable is that America had an Emancipation Proclamation, and if you look at the history of America, there have been plenty of mistakes made, but throughout it all, there were people trying to correct those mistakes.
It's a whole lot easier to tear it down than it is to build it up. So what do? We vote at all levels, to include the school board, to include the sheriff. Those are two of the most important jobs. We pray. The next thing we do is we restore history in our school systems so that we can tell this generation the sacrifices that have been made, not only by the Founding Fathers. It is important for us to make sure that we understand what price has been paid for America and help our young people to be proud to be Americans once again.
This Memorial Day, like every Memorial Day since they were first begun, is a day set aside to honor those who have died for freedom. It has almost become nothing more than a time to have a picnic and a barbecue. But we need to take time to remember that there are thousands, hundreds of thousands over the decades and centuries who have fought and died so that we can have the freedom to have our barbecues and our day off. And so on Memorial Day, we can enjoy family and friends. That's part of liberty. But we need to remember that someone paid a very high price for us to be able to have those celebrations.
This Memorial Day, take your children to the Gardens of Stone, as I call them, the national cemeteries, and you can see those people that raised their right hand and took that oath and were willing to lay down their life for that. And as it says in John 15:13, there's no greater love that a man has for another than to lay down his life for them. And that is what these people have done. We definitely have our freedoms because of those who were willing to stand on freedom's ramparts and lay down their lives for us.
Let us honor the memory of those who gave their last full measure of devotion by rededicating ourselves to what they died for a strong America, for the cause of freedom.